with login and call-in information posted on our website. The meeting will be conducted by the chairman, who will be assisted by an employee managing the Zoom site. Tonight's video and audio is being recorded and Robert's rules apply. To offer comment, you must be recognized by the chairman. For people utilizing Zoom, please contact or use the chat function to be recognized. Text your name and address to the moderator. Your request to speak will then be passed on by staff to the chairman to be recognized. Once recognized by the chairman, unmute your microphone, and after speaking, please mute your microphone. East Hempfield Township's public comment rules will apply for all public comment. You must be a resident or business owner to speak. You must identify yourself by name and address before speaking and sign the guest log for meeting minute purposes or follow the chat procedure already discussed. Comment is limited to 3 minutes and must be about the agenda item being discussed, with the exception of public comment when non-agenda items can be addressed. No action will be taken on any non-agenda item of a non-emergency nature during the public comment period for the non-agenda items. We will now move on to the first agenda item. Please join me for a moment of silence and the Pledge of Allegiance. The pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. I don't usually speak for all of our board members, but I will tonight when I say that public safety is the most important responsibility that we have. And I have the great privilege of swearing in a new group of East Hempfield Township police officers this evening, who are joining an outstanding group of current officers. With that, Chief, you're up.
Back in April, I came to you all with a request to hire the 35th officer for the department, which was slated as an addition in the 2024. With a target of getting potentially some candidates into the July 8th Police Academy. We have not sent somebody to the academy since 2012. We felt as though allowing the township to send people would hopefully broaden our pool of applicants and allow us to hire some people who haven't had the opportunity yet to go to the academy, who would hopefully then be fully vested, lifelong employees of the township. The past 4 to 5 weeks, the command staff has worked relentlessly, tirelessly, a lot of overtime, weekends, thanks to Lieutenant Foley and Lieutenant Chase performing polygraphs, background checks on candidates of which we processed. Come to you pretty excited to say we initially received 55 resume and cover letters through our process, which is an astounding amount of applicants. We've never had that many in probably the past. We sent out applications, full applications to 44 people of that 55. Upon receipt of them, I'm here tonight with people of which we interviewed, and very excited to have them come on to East Hempfield Township Police Department. All 3 of them will be going to the Reading Academy starting on July 8th. So. First person I'd like to introduce, Morgan, if you could stand up. This is Morgan Safinsky. She's 22 years of age. She graduated from Lebanon Valley College in 2022, grew up in North Carolina, and has worked for Dauphin County Probation for the past year. And again, she will be attending the academy. So,
Sounds
Mr.
good.
Chairman, if you could swear her in. Yeah, he'll bring you up there a little bit.
I'd ask you to repeat after me. I
Morgan Spensky,
do solemnly affirm
do solemnly
that I, as a police officer for East Hempfield Township Police Department,
that I, as a police officer, maintain the laws and ordinances of East Hempfield,
you got it, and that I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
duties of my office with fidelity,
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law,
obey and enforce the law
without consideration to any individual's race,
without considering race,
color, sex, religious creed,
color, sex, or religious creed,
sexual orientation, age,
sexual orientation, age,
national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability.
national origin, ancestry, handicap, or disability.
Awesome. Okay, congratulations.
Thank you.
Fine here. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, next up.
All right, next up is Jeremy Eshelman. Mr. Eshelman, at University with a degree in criminal justice. And since 2017, he's actually been a pastor here in East Hempfield at Threshold Church on Columbia Avenue.
Welcome, Jeremy. Congratulations. All right, repeat after me. I, Jeremy Eshelman,
I, Jeremy Etchelman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I, as a police officer for the East Hempfield Township Police Department,
that I, as a police officer for the East Hempfield Township Police Department,
will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the State of Pennsylvania, and the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and ordinances of East Hempfield Township,
and ordinance of East Hempfield Township.
and I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
I will discharge the duties of my office with fidelity.
You got it. I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
I will uphold, obey, and enforce the law
without consideration to an individual's
without consideration to an individual's
race, color, sex, religious creed,
race, color, sex, religious creed,
sexual orientation,
Next up, we have Cameron Freeman. Cameron is from Lebanon County, where he was born and raised. He just graduated in May from Bloomsburg University with a degree in criminal justice.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, if you'd repeat after me. I, Cameron Freeman,
I, Cameron Freeman,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I, as a police officer for East Hempfield Township Police Department,
that I, as a police officer for East East Hempfield Township Police Department.
will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
Will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
the laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania,
and the laws and ordinances of East Hempfield Township.
and the laws and discharge the duties of my office with fidelity. Consideration to an individual's race, color, sex,
Religious creed, sexual orientation,
religious creed, sexual orientation,
age, national origin, ancestry,
age, national origin, ancestry,
and handicap or disability.
handicap, or disability.
Okay, very good. Welcome aboard. Yeah,
Thank you.
have a slide.
So again, these three will start the academy on July 8th with graduation in December. So they have a 6-month journey ahead of them here. They will then enter into the department's field training program for, we'll call it 4 months, 3 to 4 months. So most likely they will be out on their own April, May of next year. So,
Thank you very much.
thank you.
With that, are we gonna get some pictures? Yeah, let's do, we're gonna take just a couple of minutes here and take some pictures with the new officers, and then we'll continue.
With the screen up.
Big smiles because we're very excited to become 19 minutes. All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Jen, I'll get all those photos to you tomorrow. Yep.
Porters, we can.
Pretty exciting. Pretty exciting. Start in a new chapter. That's pretty neat. My glasses. Yeah.
You have it in your pocket, man?
Yeah, yeah. Okay. All right, I think now we can move on. It's a great ceremony. We've got a great law enforcement group here. They do a tremendous job. All right. Next up on our agenda is the consent item, which addresses the approval of routine and repetitive business matters that tend to need little or no review, discussion, or deliberation. Consent agenda items are provided to all board members for review in advance of our meeting. If there is any comment on the consent agenda from the board? No. Anything from the audience? All right, hearing none. I think we're going to split this up. We got items A through D as presented.
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Russell. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, a second from Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, 0. 5-0. Okay, next up is a motion to approve consent agenda E, which are the minutes as presented. Do I hear a motion?
Just, Mr. Chairman, I have to abstain. I was not present at the last meeting.
And that's why it's split out from the other motion. Do I hear a motion to approve item E, the minutes as presented?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Brubaker, a second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Motion passes 4-0
One abstention.
with one abstention. Thank you. All right, next up this evening, we have a sketch plan, preliminary plan waiver for Thomas Trading Incorporated. Is there someone here? Thank you.
Yes, good evening. Cheryl Love with the LA Group. And is located at 79 Elmwood Avenue. It's an existing business that's been there since 2014. Their current site is approximately just under 1 acre. Their building is about 14,000 square feet. They are growing and looking to consolidate some operations here. What they do is they purchase food that is discount, and it's brought to this site palletized. It's stored in the building. They repackage it, they redistribute it to discount retail stores in the area. Apparently, they're one of the largest groups that does that here locally. So they are not adding employees. That's an existing conditions plan that you see there. They are looking to remove portion of the back of that building. And in total, they're adding about 8,000 square feet beyond that footprint. So if we could go one more plan, please. The next one would show, that would be removing portion of the building and the addition at the back. Most of that is behind the building. Approximately 10 employees, it would remain the same. This is simply increasing some storage space for them. And there's limited site disturbance. We did go through and receive several variances and by rezoning of a number of nonconformities with this current property. So we were successful receiving our requests through the zoning board. So we are simply moving on for processing this plan through land development. Again, it is minimal. We will meet the stormwater regulations and whatnot. So we're simply seeking a waiver for preliminary plan tonight so that we can move on and go directly to final plan, finish out our engineering, and bring that in front of you yet again.
Okay.
Any questions?
Did I hear you say you've been in front of planning already?
We did last week, last Wednesday,
Okay.
or yes,
and,
we received their approval.
and the zoning issues were resolved. Well, good. Hopefully this will allow them to grow.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Just the statement that they will be coming back with a fully engineered plan that we will review. And this is just a common practice
Mhm,
that we're doing right now.
correct.
Any comment from the audience? And obviously, when I ask about audience, I'm including Zoom. Okay. All right. No comment. With that, I'll hear a motion to approve the preliminary plan waiver request for Thomas Trading Incorporated Project Township File 24-07.01, subject to all staff and engineering comments. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Brubaker. I have a motion from Mr. Russell and a second from Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Very good. All right, next up, we have Old Tree Drive, final plan.
Good evening, Dave Bittner Engineering. I'm here on behalf of US Boiler. US Boiler owns a parcel of land at 2930 Old Tree Drive. They have an existing building on there. It's approximately 126,000 square feet. They're looking to put a little over 45,000 square feet addition onto the western side of the site. Currently, they have access from Old Tree Drive. It's on the right-hand side of that plan that you're looking at there. That access point will not change. They're not anticipating any increase in truck traffic. They do have currently, I believe, 12 truck docks out there. That will not change. They won't have, so they will have 15 additional employees that they're anticipating there. There's 64 employees now. I'm sorry, there's 64 total, 49 there now, 15 proposed employees. If you can go to the grading plan.
Only gave me, do you want a
Oh,
separate sheet?
that's okay.
No, I
No,
can-
it's okay.
Okay.
Oh, there it is, right there. So stormwater management, this was a very tight space to get this in here. We have one stormwater facility to the north of the proposed building. And then that discharges down around the western side of the building into 3 smaller stormwater facilities along the front. There was an existing swale there. It's been modified to have 3 small facilities there before it discharges back over to the east into the, there's just existing storm sewer underneath the access drive and then into the stream on the eastern side of the property. Sewer connection is going to be to the south. We're going to take that out of the proposed building directly into the main within Old Tree Drive, and water will be connected within the existing building. They'll just tap into an existing line that's already there. So we have been through one round of comments and revisions with the township engineer. We have several waivers, modifications, and deferrals that we're requesting. I can walk through each one of those if you'd like me to. 587 H2A. It's for the type A landscape buffer, which is required along the western side of the building. Due to the stormwater facilities that we need to provide along there to convey the water around the building, there's not adequate space to get the landscape buffer in there as well. It's industrial against industrial, so we're not against residential parcel or anything. So we're requesting a modification of that, and part of the condition was that we would pay, or the owner would pay a fee in lieu of for the landscape that would be required to be put in there. So we prepared a landscape exhibit, came up with a cost of $7,865. So that'll be paid as a fee in lieu of providing the landscape buffer. The second one, Saldo section 265.84A 1B. Sidewalk shall be provided on both sides of new streets and access drives and subdivisions and land developments. We're requesting a deferral of this one. This will be for the sidewalk that would be required along Old Tree Drive. So we're requesting that to be deferred. And we did provide the township engineer to provide an exhibit showing what that grading and third one from street and sidewalk ordinance section 222.66B, install curbing, sidewalk, and pavement widening along the entire length of the proposed subdivision. So again, this is along Old Tree Drive. So we're asking a deferral of those improvements outside of the required mill and overlay along the frontage. There will be a fee in lieu of the mill and overlay that's required in front of the property. Stormwater management ordinance section 260.19A2C. This is for the maximum loading ratios. I think you guys probably see this one on almost every plan. So we're well over the required loading ratios for the stormwater facilities. We have the support of our geotechnical engineer on that one. Stormwater Management Ordinance, Section 260-21F. This has to do with the separation from the 100-year water surface in the stormwater facility to the finished floor elevation of the building. In the stormwater facility to the north, due to the, partially due to the shallow limiting zone that's there, the bottom of the basin is up high enough, and we have, I think we're right at a foot of separation between the finished floor elevation and the 100-year water surface. We do have an overflow through a basin and then a pipe that Motion 260-22C. This is for the calculation methodology that we used in karst areas, which requires the use of AMC1. This is a waiver to use AMC2. We're really in the compact area here. There's not a lot of karst features on the site that would really warrant using the AMC1. Stormwater Management Ordinance Section 260-24A6B. This is a non-emergency use of the spillways in the stormwater facilities, which only allows up to the 50-year storm. So based on the size of these, we had to use those spillways in those facilities for storms less than the 50-year storm to be able to convey that water through those facilities. And Street and Sidewalk Ordinance, Section 222-521A. All sidewalks shall be installed in accordance with East Hempfield Township technical specifications. This is specifically for, on the eastern side of the access drive, there's an existing bituminous trail that's along there. So this is, that would be used in place of the sidewalk. But the street and sidewalk, so the specifications, technical specifications require concrete sidewalk. So this is a modification to allow the use of the pretty common on the off-street parking. We essentially used what they need out there for parking. Currently, they have 72 parking space, or 73. We're actually reducing that to 72 to get another handicap space in. And they're going to have 64 employees. They don't anticipate, or they don't really have a lot of visitors come here. So I think this is one that we just need to get your blessing on, that, you know, we're providing adequate spaces, even though it doesn't meet the ITE manual for the ordinance.
Thank you. Any question from the board?
None. I have none.
None.
No.
Okay. All right, well, it sounds like you've addressed numerous issues in the proper manner. With that, hear a motion to approve modification and waiver request number 4 through 8 and conditional approval of 1, 2, and 3 for the 2930 Old Tree Drive final land development plan, Township File 2308.02, subject to all staff and engineering comments. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth. Do I hear a second? Motion passes 5-0. And then on the final plan, a motion to approve the final land development plan for 2930 Old Tree Drive project, Township File 23.08.02, subject to all staff and engineering comments. Hear a motion? Motion from Mr. Bennett. Do I hear a second?
Second.
A second from Mr. Brubaker. A motion from Mr. Bennett, a second from Mr. Brubaker. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have 198 Chickies.
Good evening. My name is Ryan Trees with RGS Associates. Here tonight with me is also Pat Kane and Laura Matthews with Evercore Facility Management, who is the applicant for the 198 Chickies Road project. If you recall, we were back in April at the Board of Supervisors meeting for a waiver of preliminary planning. Since then, we have processed the final land development plan, have been through several reviews through the township engineer, and have come to a letter dated June, development plan for 198 Chickies Road. Just a brief summary of what the project is and consists of. The use for this project is business contractor and storage, which proposes to develop the property of about just shy of 10,000 square foot building, as you see on the rendering here, with parking for the employees as well as the Evercore's facilities trucks, which is in the rear of the property. There are 2 access points currently on site, and the intention is to provide similar 2 access points on the property as developed. The stormwater management is being handled by 2 subsurface facilities. It is serviced by public water and on-lot sewer as it is currently existing. Based off of the June 7th Township Engineer letter, we did attend the Planning Commission meeting last week and did get the recommendation for the plans as well as the 5 requested waivers and the 2 deferral requests. So again, we're here tonight asking for conditional approval of those. I would touch on those just briefly here. The waivers. The waiver number 1 is from the subdivision land development to use that to 10 feet in the rear and to more or less waive the buffer strip along the northern, eastern, and western property boundary due to a similar district and use. For the second waiver request here, it is from the stormwater management ordinance related to the maximum loading ratios. As the presentation previously touched on, this is a fairly common waiver. We are just over the required weight or loading ratios, and we do have support from the geotech as well for those. The third waiver that we requested is also from the stormwater management ordinance related to required cover within a vehicle loading area in the rear of the property. There is one stormwater facility underneath the pavement where we are close to our tie-in point for stormwater. So we are proposing to have 1 foot of cover over a structurally sound RCP concrete pipe. The fourth waiver is from the sidewalk, street and sidewalk ordinance related to, I apologize, lost my train. He's requesting to allow a 35-foot wide access, as this is intended to use for some of the truck movements, which will allow safe maneuverability at that point. The fifth one is a deferral request related to the subdivision land development ordinance related to providing sidewalks along new and existing streets. At this point, we are asking for a deferral to install those at a later time, conditioned upon providing an agreement.
Okay.
The sixth ordinance is related to street and sidewalk. The specific section is driveway is not classified minimum use shall have a minimum 150-foot center line separation from other streets and driveways. The existing condition to the north, the existing property exists less than the 150-foot requirement. So we're planning on matching that 110-foot separation that we have with the 2 access points. And lastly, to go along with the deferral agreement, we are also asking a deferral of roadway improvements, including curbing, sidewalk, pavement widening. Again, along with that deferral agreement, any other design information.
If my memory is correct, this is a building that had been vacant or a property that had been vacant for a long time?
That is my understanding.
Yeah, yeah. This is a great repurposing of a property into a new business. And it sounds like you've addressed many of the concerns that we've had from a waiver and modification standpoint. Any questions from the board? Hearing none, or
No.
hearing none. Any questions from the audience? Sure. You got,
You'll need to come to the microphone, state
Okay.
your name and address.
My name's Jennifer Erickson. And my address, 1080 Lambley Road, Landisville. I've heard a couple deferrals for a later date, but never, and I've heard approvals, but never have I heard what that new deadline date in the future will be for some of these deferrals of
Mhm.
what of requirements for sidewalks and landscaping and water retention basins and things of that nature that are part of, are required. And
Sure.
so why aren't there dates when people ask?
basically, when we give a deferral, that's because, particularly on a sidewalk, for instance, that's because there are no sidewalks there now. And to have them put in a sidewalk when there's not one in the east side of the property or the west side of the property, it really doesn't make sense. Now, someday, at some time, there may be development along there that will require sidewalk. And the deferral requires them to put the sidewalk in when the time comes. But as we sit here today, we don't know what that's gonna, when that will be in the future. That's why you don't hear a date. There's a deferral, but we don't know how long that deferral could be. It could be, in the case of some developments, and you hear this a lot. In the case of some developments, it could be a year or two or three. In another it could be 20 years. So that's why you don't hear, that's why there's not a firm deadline when you hear the word deferral.
Thank
Okay.
you.
An example of that would be the 3 warehouse to when the last for
Anything more from the audience? Okay, here.
But when you.
Your name and address, please, for the minutes.
Use 854 Huntington Place. When you give a deferral to like up on the hill and the farmland, they've got a deferral for sidewalks. So what happens when it's all built in and the builder is out of there and you decide you want to get sidewalks? Does that fall on the homeowners in the homeowners association?
Well, I'm not 100, Mrs. Schweitzer, can you?
Yeah, I couldn't tell you exactly what the deferral, if there is in fact a deferral, and, or if it was a fee in lieu of. If it's fee in lieu of, then we hold funds for
Nathan,
that.
that's
Is Nate
Daniel
there?
Sturgis is available.
Okay.
Right.
Nate is-
I didn't hear which property he asked about.
I believe it's the Stauffer property.
Yes.
So the Stauffer property within the development, they are installing sidewalk as they go.
We're gonna say
Right.
yeah,
I'll
okay,
agree with him.
thank you.
But if it's not as they go, then who responds? My question is, if it then is deferred and the builder says, okay, folks, someday it'll have to be, and it'll be on the homeowners. They're not going to be told about that when they buy their house.
Well,
Or are they?
Sidewalk's always the responsibility of the homeowner if it's there. And it would be the responsibility of the homeowner when at some point in the future, it needs to be put in.
So perhaps for the people who are going to approve the plans, they should say, you have to specifically say that it'll be their responsibility to pay for a sidewalk at some time in the future. Sidewalks are expensive. And people go in there and go, I don't know. And all of a sudden, the township says you got to put in a sidewalk.
So Mr. Hughes, typically in a development, the internal part of the development, sidewalks required, and they put it in. And if not, there's typically a fee in lieu of if there's some reason that they can't. In a situation like this, it doesn't make sense to put a sidewalk in. It will deteriorate over time. It may be 20 years.
I'm not talking about the.
No, I understand. I'm trying to explain to you
I'm
that
not talking about this. I'm talking about people who think that as the board approves these things, they would say, this has to be explained to each individual and signed off on your payments. And give them a legal response, a legal chance to go after the builder when he doesn't tell them that.
So again, what I'm trying to explain to you is in the internal part of the development, the sidewalks are typically put in. There's not a deferral that's asked for. When the deferral is asked for, it's typically in a place where the sidewalk leads to nowhere. Just like this one. So I think what I'm trying to explain to you is there's not a situation that you're describing that we have a massive problem in the township where homeowners aren't aware and they're going to be called upon at some date and time to put in a sidewalk.
I think it would be very simple to make that a part of the deal.
Okay.
Okay.
You all approved Glow Fiber to go in and do whatever they want, but then we had to deal with Glow Fiber to correct the things they didn't do.
Look, we're moving a little far afield here, so if we could sort of move on, that'd be great. Any other comment relating to 198 from the audience? 6, and conditional approval of number 5 and 7 for the 198 Chickies final land development plan, subject to all staff and engineering comments. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Motion for Mr. Russell. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Johnson. I have a motion from Mr. Russell and a second from Mr. Johnson. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Your time.
We also got a final plan motion to approve, or I should say, motion to approve the final land development plans for 198 Chickies project, Township File 2304.02, subject to all staff and engineering comments. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second from Mr. Russell. Motion from Mr. Wigglesworth, a second from Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Okay. All right, with that, let's move on to the next agenda item. Which is what is called on the agenda a non-sanctuary city resolution. Started. I will read the resolution. This is resolution number 2024.2, a resolution of the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors that affirms its sworn duty to protect residents and businesses located within the township from illegal immigration into our township and the United States. Whereas East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors respects the history of the United States as a beacon of freedom and opportunity around the world and recognizes the plight of those seeking refuge and asylum from various other parts of the world. And whereas East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors is proud of its nearly 300-year history as a place where people from all over the world have sought religious, political, and economic freedom and have legally settled here to make our township community a better place. And whereas the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors supports legal immigration into the United States. And whereas those who enter the country illegally accelerate demand and increase unsustainability of our public schools and justice system, which can and have imposed significant public health, safety, and financial burdens upon many of our larger cities, and eventually to our East Hempfield Township community in the future. And whereas the executive branch of the federal government and the U.S. Congress have failed to take responsive steps to address the systematic issues of the ongoing illegal migrant crisis at all U.S. border entry points, and call upon our federal government to secure our traditional national borders. And whereas federal law at 8 U.S.C. 1373 prohibits policies that impede cooperation between federal, state, and local officials when it comes to sending, requesting, and maintaining or exchanging of information regarding immigration status. And whereas East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors will support the Lancaster County District Attorney and the Lancaster County Sheriff, which have declared that they and their respective offices will continue to cooperate with U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials in connection with illegal migrants found in Lancaster County. Now therefore be it resolved that East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors hereby declares that it does not support and that we will continue to prioritize the needs of our local citizens, uphold the Constitution and laws of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania and of the United States. Be it further resolved, the President of the United States and U.S. Congress to perform their constitutional duty and take immediate and effective action to secure our nation's borders and enforce existing immigration laws. We call upon the federal government to promptly address and fix a broken immigration process into our country, which is allowing millions of undocumented individuals to enter the United States, ultimately saddling an unsustainable financial burden on its citizens and communities everywhere. 3, municipalities and law enforcement agencies throughout Lancaster County, particularly those adjacent to East Hempfield Township, to fully cooperate with federal law enforcement, including U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement officials regarding persons found to be in the United States and Lancaster County illegally. Municipalities throughout, number 4, municipalities throughout Lancaster County adopt policies that support legal immigration and cooperation with U.S. law enforcement organizations, which keep safe and protected and keep all residents safe and protected from the many and numerous dangers of illegal. Okay, that's the resolution that we have here this evening. Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I know you guys had discussed this item. I was not here at the last meeting. I'd like to,
Go ahead.
if you don't mind, give my thoughts on this. For me, again, these kind of topics, I find it sad that we have to address these kind of topics here. It seems to me that not so long ago, Lancaster County seemed to be insulated from some of these far left policies like sanctuary cities. In my view, if Lancaster City had not passed a sanctuary ordinance and also called on other municipalities to do the same, we would not be discussing this here this evening. So here we are with another divisive issue that we have to respond to. So let's start off by talking about what is a sanctuary city. A sanctuary city is a city or municipality that limits its cooperation with the federal government on immigration enforcement. And I would encourage everyone to read the actual document and not just the the press releases and the talking points. So the question becomes, why would this be an issue for East Hempfield Township? Or why is this an issue for Lancaster County? Or any one of the number of jurisdictions that have adopted resolutions committing to uphold the law and to cooperate with federal authorities? Well, unfortunately, their actions, the city's actions, as well as other sanctuary cities, create an incentive for illegal immigration. We see it happening all over the country. In fact, right now, we're starting to see some regrets for some of the bigger cities on this matter. Because resources are limited, they've now become overwhelmed, just like the border states have. And while there are those that are here looking for a better life, there are also those that are here looking to take advantage of our laws and our good nature. I could not be here, as I stated before, at the last meeting. However, I did watch it online. And there were some observations. They care about their fellow man. I also believe there were talking points that were sent around, and there was a lot of political theater. And my guess is there's going to be some of that on display here tonight as well. There seemed to be a lot of wordsmithing going on. Sanctuary city versus welcoming city. In politics, when you don't like the direction of a conversation or the debate or where it's headed, what do? You try to change the narrative. Just like a clever magician, you distract the audience. Get them to pay attention to something else. Hence, who could be against a welcoming city? Only bigots, racists, and haters. Same old tiresome argument. Anyone with a different opinion gets labeled bigots, racists, and haters. The accusation that this township has or will ever be anti-immigrant is a flat-out lie. The accusation that this township will use our police and EMS to target any group of people is a flat-out lie. It is show mercy while using common sense. We can be welcoming and follow the law at the same time. To me, this issue is very simple. It is not complicated. Lancaster City passed an ordinance that limits their cooperation with immigration officials. We, along with other municipalities, are going to hopefully pass a resolution that says we're going to uphold the law and fully cooperate with federal authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Wiggles.
I'd like to make a statement, Mr. Bennett. Okay. As I had said 2 weeks ago, this topic, and as Mr. Wigglesworth said, it is divisive in the community. And I did read the Lancaster City ordinance, and I don't see the statements that show that they are not following the law. I said at the last meeting, and then the comments of the 7 speakers from the last meeting only reinforced the divisiveness of this. Mr. Lucht and Ms. Giannopoulos are with the Church World Services, and they live this every day. And they use words like our resolution as it can be misinterpreted. It causes confusion, and other people have said it was insulting. And Washington through changes as that. The police, I'm sure we would all agree, are already following the law. I don't see this providing any additional capabilities. And there's a lot of national policy priorities. A recent survey talked about strengthening the economy, terrorism, money in politics, healthcare costs, education, immigration happens to be 8th on that list. And I don't think our residents want us tackling all of these national priorities. They want us concentrating on what we had talked about prior to this subject and what we will talk about after this subject. And I think something this complex and a statement, a resolution this complex and possibly far-reaching should be reviewed by our solicitor. And lastly, items 3 and 4 in the resolution encourages nearby townships to follow our lead. And I feel like these townships have very capable leadership and will be making their own decisions. And I believe they are wise not to have taken up this resolution at this time. Thank you.
I'd just like to point out one thing, that the Lancaster City ordinance, not just the resolution, an ordinance called on other municipalities to adopt their ordinance. Just pointing that out.
All right. Yeah, well, that may be true, but that does not, I would not support that either, but that's a whole different topic. But yeah, I just don't think we should be addressing this topic ourselves.
Well, like I said in the last meeting, I didn't talk much, but what I said was we all took an oath to uphold the U.S. Constitution, the Constitution of the Commonwealth, and all federal, state, and local laws. There is some misconceptions that were sent out in an email that somehow we're all of a sudden our police are going to start, EMTs and police and fire are going to all of a sudden start asking people their immigration status, and that's not the case. We're going to follow what we've been asked to do at the local level by our federal partners. And so let me explain what the local level responsibilities are so that everybody understands what we are currently doing and what we're currently going to continue doing. So rather than use my own words, I'm actually going to use President Biden's words at this point. This is from a March article. It was on MSNBC. It was a reprint of a Fox News story. In the article, it said the White House is calling for sanctuary cities and jurisdictions across the U.S. to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement in turning over all criminal illegal immigrants for deportation, just as there's renewed scrutiny over such policies in the wake of several high-profile crimes committed by illegal immigrants who previously been released by local law enforcement despite pleas from ICE. We welcome local law enforcement support and cooperation in apprehending and removing individuals who pose a risk to national security or public safety, said a White House spokesman on Wednesday of that time, in response to a question about the stance on sanctuary cities. When a local jurisdiction has information about individuals who could pose a threat to public safety, we want them to share that information with ICE. Sanctuary cities either limit or outright forbid law enforcement from honoring ICE detainers. A detainer or request from the agency that ICE be notified ahead of their release from custody and allowed to transfer the illegal immigrant to criminal into custody. This week it was revealed, and it just goes on the story. This is about us in our limited role of enforcing, basically if someone commits a crime and we're aware of that they're here illegally, before we release them back into the community, we're required to notify ICE. That's one of our basic responsibilities. That's what we currently do, and that's what we will continue doing, and that's what's currently asked for us. And anytime ICE makes a request for cooperation, that we cooperate with them. It does not mean that all of a sudden we're going to start going out and ourselves enforcing immigration. We're not enforcing immigration. That is a federal thing. All we are saying is that we will cooperate as requested by our federal partners with the removal of people that have actually committed crimes that are here illegally. So it does not mean that when somebody calls a police officer or an EMS for medical services, that all of a sudden they're going to be asked their immigration status. That is not a role at the local level, and that's not something that we do. It is honoring ICE detainers, which is what the White House is asking all local governments to do. So that was what our current president's position is on this. Also, there was another article in here, and this is Senator Bob Casey. And Bob Casey stated this again in March. He joined opposition to sanctuary policies via statements from his spokesperson, Maddie McDonald. Senator Casey doesn't support sanctuary cities and believes all jurisdictions must cooperate with ICE and law enforcement at all levels, and has opposed Republican efforts to fund the COPS program, which helps local law enforcement keep their communities safe. That was a direct quote. That was March 4th from Senator Casey's office. This resolution is in full compliance with what both the president and what our current standing senator is requesting that we do. It's nothing more or nothing less than following what we're asked to do from our federal partners when it comes to crimes and basically partnering them when they ask for assistance. We are not going around asking people for their immigration status as we provide local services. So that is just to kind of refute the email that was being circulated around the community. That was not a true statement as to what this resolution actually represents. It basically just states that we are following the law and we're going to continue following the law.
Thank you, Scott. Roger?
Just following up on a couple of statements that I made last meeting regarding sort of being on the fence on this, not really sure at that time whether it was really necessary. You know, I think I'm supportive of this resolution because it really doesn't, it does exactly what we're already doing. It states exactly what we're already doing, just reaffirms that, and I'm okay with that. As was already discussed here, we've all taken oaths to uphold the laws of our local municipality and our state and our federal government, and this just reaffirms that, and I'm okay with that.
Okay. I'd like to say a little bit more concerning the resolution, or concerning a resolution and what it is. Resolution is an official expression of the opinion or will of a legislative body. The practice of submitting and voting on a resolution is a typical part of business of the Board of Supervisors. We do it all the time. Board resolutions allow members' voices to be heard, can create change, and on some level pressure other government representatives to move policy in a certain way. Resolutions are different from laws and ordinances. What you have in Lancaster is a law and ordinance that everyone must comply with. Resolutions are not law. And for that reason, there really is no necessity for a review from our attorney. And so I'm gonna turn that request down. Finally, I would say that this particular resolution focused on addressing the burden illegal immigration places on communities everywhere. The resolution also reaffirms the East Hempfield law enforcement will cooperate with ICE and other immigration authorities and law enforcement agencies adjacent to East Hempfield Township. This resolution avoids inflammatory terminology related to sanctuary cities or direct criticism of the welcoming position of Lancaster City. Speaking for myself, and I know there's others here that feel differently, I don't care what Lancaster City does, okay? What Lancaster City does is up to them. I think they're on the wrong track with this, but that's just my personal opinion. And finally, we've also avoided any specific criticism of Democrats and Democrat positions on this. So, okay. So with that, we'll have public comment. We're gonna have 20 minutes of public comment. So I wanna, each speaker will have up to 3 minutes. We'd ask that you not repeat things that have already been said. They don't need to be said again necessarily. But we'll go with that. First up, okay.
Gonna be first up because I'd also like to be first and quickly done. Alex Bender, 2591 Spring Valley Road. I'm here on behalf of Liz Bender, who you might know. She would be here, but she's out of town. And it's hard to edit as you guys are sharing your opinions, so this is just what I had prepared. So clarifying, as I understand, city is not a sanctuary city. It is a certified welcoming city and has been since 2019. This isn't code for harboring illegal immigrants or encouraging crime. Federal law enforcement, nor is it right to live, work, and contribute to society, the economy, and the community without the fear of being questioned, harassed, or unlawfully detained based on their appearance or the language they speak. It allows undocumented but law-abiding immigrants to report crimes, seek medical help, and go to court without fear. Some stats. The National Institute of Justice at the Department of Justice has said research suggests that those who immigrate legally or illegally are not more likely and may even be less likely to commit crimes. December 2020, research in Texas found, contrary to public perception, we observed considerably lower felony arrest rates among undocumented immigrants compared to legal immigrants and native-born U.S. citizens, and find no evidence that undocumented criminality has increased. In 2023, of the almost, I'm going violent here, 25,000 homicides in the United States, while obviously one is too many, less than 2,500 were committed by non-citizens. That number is provided by U.S. Customs and Border Patrol. That means roughly 10% of all homicides in the country were committed by non-citizens. And you can do that math. Where's the outrage and legislation to prevent the other 22,000 murders committed by legal U.S. citizens? Some folks are calling for preventative measures to protect us from a problem that, for all intents and purposes, doesn't exist for no other reason than they've been fed misinformation. According to the Lancaster County Community Indicators, which is sponsored by the Steinman Foundation, the violent crime rate in Lancaster City has decreased every year since 2019, when it was designated a welcoming city. The Township Commissioners noted that in their handbook, it says that even legitimate legislative goals cannot be pursued by means which stifle fundamental personal liberty when the goals can be more reasonably achieved in other ways. I'd ask what the goals for the township are, and are we spending our resources wisely in their pursuits? I would say discussing, drafting, and voting on a non-sanctuary resolution is an egregious waste of time, money, and resources. I would also argue, and I added this just now, that Lancaster City has perhaps invited confusion and consternation with this declaration when no such statement was necessary. Why would we do the same thing? Illegal immigrants know the risks and repercussions if they're caught engaging. They don't want to be deported. They just want to raise a family like everyone else. And I think actions speak louder than resolutions.
Okay. Well, I'm sure the city of Lancaster would appreciate the vote of support that you've given them with what they've done from a welcoming city standpoint. But again, the actual resolution here tonight is not about sanctuary city, non-sanctuary city. Okay.
I understand. I just think we're spending time and resources on something that
Thank you.
we don't need to.
Okay.
Thank you.
Next up.
Going by the order on the sheet.
Oh. No, not by the sheet.
We do need you, though, to sign in with your name and address on the sheet if you did not already do so.
My name is Robert Popdan. I'm a resident of East Hempfield Township, 1505 Edinburgh Circle, Landisville. At the outset, I have to apologize for not being at the previous meetings. I wasn't aware of the topic and only recently became aware of it. And I understand what you're saying as far as trying to reaffirm what people were asking you to reaffirm. My reaction was, why? Why is East Hempfield feel compelled to get involved with issues of sanctuary cities or non-sanctuary cities or resolutions And aside from the fact that you would like to reaffirm your support of the law and the Constitution, which I would think we all do, that you feel it's necessary to make an issue out of it. Are we having problems in East Hempfield Township? If we were having problems, I think it would be necessary to clarify those things. If we're not having problems, why draw it and almost create or continue the divisiveness, as someone implied earlier, it's being political or not? This is not being political. We're all concerned about immigrants legally, illegally. No one wants a herd of illegal immigrants just running amok. We want to go through the process. But if East Hempfield Township is not having a problem, why go the extra step to almost imply it? Thank you.
So my question to you would be, when would it be good to make a statement about a situation like this? Should we wait until someone is hurt or someone is killed?
Yeah, well,
Should we wait until an officer is shot?
right, I understand what you're saying, but why would you go back and reaffirm that the speed limit is 35? Or
All I'm saying, and the other point.
We know we have laws.
The other point I'd make, Bob, is that we sit here as a board of supervisor, we sit here as Americans. We have free speech and we're allowed to voice our opinion. And that's what a resolution does. Okay? Not everybody's gonna like it. I get it. I get it. But there are a lot of people out there that are supportive of this effort. And we didn't start this dialogue. Okay? Lancaster City called upon other municipalities to support a welcoming situation.
I
Okay?
understand that.
So I'm,
I'll just finish with this.
Sure.
Why don't you put out a resolution that we should pay our property taxes?
well, we don't need a resolution for, we have a law, we have an ordinance, we have an ordinance in place for that.
Oh, boy.
Okay. All right. Who's next?
I'm back. I actually came here because I want a speed limit sign prior to oak tree or pine tree on Church Street. We have none from Marietta until then. That's why I was here, but we won't get to that.
This is off the top. Okay,
I know.
okay.
The very fact that you want to make this sound as if you are supporting everything and not being divisive is wrong, because the whole subject is divided. If you wanted to support the federal government, you just could have said, in East Hempfield, we support federal law. That's all you had to say. You didn't have to say all the rest, because once you mentioned sanctuary cities, you became either for or against it. And it'll be, some people will say you're for it, some people will say you're against it. They won't read anything else in it. If you think your words aren't being misapplied, you're wrong. So just by getting this out, and what happens to the person who is illegal, the ones that have been here for 10 years as illegals and are married to legals, all of a sudden, they don't want to report that maybe their husband's beating them up all the time, or something else happened to them, they got robbed. That's what happens. And all of a sudden, East Hempfield becomes that way just because you guys talked about it. And there was no reason to talk about it. You say it wasn't political. Yes, it was.
Dr. Hughes, can you speak? Dr. Hughes. Please remember to state your name and address when you come to the microphone. The secretary does the minutes from the recording and she needs to hear it.
My name is Jeffrey Miller. I'm a resident of East Hempfield at 1314 Deer Lane. I'm also a dad, a doctor, formerly an EMT with my college and hometown ambulance corps, and I'm your neighbor. I did request a copy of the drafted resolution as recently as yesterday, and I didn't receive a complete draft prior to the meeting. I was moved to attend this meeting by a report that East Hempfield was proposing action that would require police and EMTs to ask about immigration status. You've addressed that. My initial reaction was horror. That's not too strong of a word. I was appalled. There is no more sacred responsibility of the government than to provide for the safety of the public. Now, let's be clear, the proposed action doesn't do that. In its current form, it does not require our public safety officers and emergency medical personnel to ask about immigration status. The proposed action is a municipal resolution. It's not even an ordinance. In this case, it's a vehicle through which this body, 5 elected officials, expresses its opinion on a matter. So what does the resolution explicitly say? In a nutshell, it says the immigration system is broken. Federal government, fix it. It also says we have a duty to uphold the law. On the surface, that's fairly straightforward. If an individual is arrested in East Hempfield on a criminal charge and has a U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement order to detain that individual, then yes, uphold the law. I can get behind that. But I don't think this proposed action is the business of our local government. I've been on the border. There are a lot of really good people trying to do the right thing within adequate resources. And our court systems are woefully underprepared. These are things that need to be addressed responsibly in Washington and not in even that. They do need funding and deserve our full support, and I'm glad to see that you got it. Let's turn to the veiled message under the surface of the resolution. It's called a dog whistle. Irrespective of whether earlier drafts actually included requirements for law enforcement or emergency medical services to ask about immigration status, the proposed resolution has implicit meaning. It says you're not welcome here. Blowing this dog whistle messages that there is certain attitude and maybe even a bias that means you might not be treated fairly. It says if you're,
You're done. 3
I'm
minutes is done.
finishing. It says if you're in a tough spot, don't ask for help. Avoid interaction. Stay in the shadows. How does that help our community? I'll go one step further. People in the shadows are more easily victimized. As an EMT and later as a doctor, I've cared for survivors of sexual assault and domestic violence. These survivors are often in vulnerable and precarious positions. They deserve our help, and we should not impose
Anyone else?
Yes.
No, we're only at 11 or 12.
Hi, my name is Joyce Lawasso. I live at 1143 Aquila Drive here in East Hempfield Township. I've been a resident here for 30 years, and I thank you very much for serving as our supervisors. It's a noble position. I also would like to say that I think tonight, why, if we are already upholding the law, do we have to have another resolution? I agree, I don't like the illegal situation that's happening at the border, but that's a federal issue, and we can support our congressmen to pass the laws that need to be happening to stop that problem. I really laud Mr. Bender, I laud the doctor. I feel like, why should EMTs, their job is to go and help people with medical situations. Their job is not to find out if a person is here illegally. The same for police. Police are already doing their job. If they find a criminal, somebody that's doing a criminal action, by all means, do what you need to do. But let's not profile people. And profiling does happen. And look at our, again, profiling rounds.
I just encourage you to let's be more humane. I agree with Lancaster being a welcoming city, but I don't necessarily think that we need to fight the government in the process and say we're not a sanctuary city. On our agenda tonight, it does say that this is a sanctuary, non-sanctuary resolution. It's not that this is not, you said before, it's not part of the tonight's agenda, but it's right here that it is part of tonight's agenda.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
Next up. Okay.
My name's Jen Erickson. I live at 1080 Lambley Road in Landisville. Do we have a problem with illegal immigrants in East Hempfield? I'm asking.
Mr. Chairman, I'm just going to ask that we keep order here. This is not back and forth and an argument and display of opinions. So we get to hear the comments, and I'm
Problem I'm going to understand about resolutions such as this. It does send a message very clearly to all immigrants, legal and illegal immigrants, that this is not a welcoming township. It also puts fear in those families. Imagine if you're here illegally and your child is sick. You're now afraid to go to the Penn State Health Center when your child is sick, because if you do that as an illegal immigrant, you're going to be afraid you'll be sent away. And that's not fair. That's not right. That is not what any of our laws intended. So these resolutions, I know it's not an ordinance, it's not a law. I get that. That's semantics. What you're actually saying is illegals are at risk if they even come here. And that puts the illegals at risk in and they've been robbed or in any other way harmed or abused. Other crimes happening maybe to us, to you, to your family. They'll be too afraid to come forward as a witness for fear that they'll be deported. And I don't think that's really the look you want. So I don't think you should pass this resolution, especially when you've already argued that it's not even necessary.
Nope.
My name is Mel Lucht. I live at 708 Farmingdale Road. And it's hard to hear some truth. And sometimes when you look at people looking up there, and your posture says a lot. Can you hear what people are saying to you? Will you take it into consideration, or have you already made up your mind to do this? Because it does feel like it's a political year. And it is political, is what you're doing. I feel, that's my opinion.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. Next up.
Here this evening, and I just have a couple of questions. I understand it's a resolution. I commend you for wanting to do something as supervisor to support the law. I know that's your job, and I appreciate that, and I think that is what you should be doing. So that part makes sense to me. I also noted that it was listed on the agenda as a non-sanctuary city item. So right there is a red flag. because this creates a sense of urgency and it's building fears by just listing that on the agenda. And the other thing that I've noted, in the very middle of the page, I totally agree with you. Whereas the executive branch of the federal government and U.S. Congress have failed to take appropriate action. According to surveys, 75% of American citizens, and this is irregardless of political parties because we shouldn't be getting involved in that, agree with us that there is a problem at the border. And it is their job as the president and at Congress. And I know they have worked on bipartisan legislation that hasn't gone anywhere. But certainly that is important, and that should be happening. Or the country illegally accelerates. It's a very broad general statement for really a very complex issue. So I question why that had to be in there. Also, your resolution. Now, therefore, be it resolved. You talk about does not support sanctuary city policies. What does that even mean? You need specifics. Nothing is stated there. That is so very broad. I mean, you want to uphold the law. I commend you for that. If you just simply took that out, I mean, if you feel a need to do something, and you said the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors declares it does not support policies that run counter to current U.S. law, I don't think any of us here would have any problem with that. But the way this has been presented is a red flag, but you're building on fear. And I would implore you to please reconsider that this is going to open up a can of worms that I really don't feel as a resident is going to be good for this wonderful, it's wonderful. Just you want to be involved in this, you want to be active. What are you as a board going to do to help give information to our Representative Smucker and our national senators so that something happens? Because everyone agrees that it should be a better system. But I think as this is stated, it's going to cause a terrible pall over our wonderful township. And I do implore you to please reconsider. Thank you.
I'll look it up.
Hello, my name is Patty Gould Lucht, and I live at 708 Farmingdale Road, Lancaster, PA. And I would agree with everyone's comments and statements in regard to the resolution. And I would hope that you don't pass it, that you reconsider it, that you take more time, that things are reworked. I know this can't be a document about all kinds of statistics, but I also want to know, well, what is significant? What do you mean by that? Like, is it a problem? I think somebody raised that very specifically. Also, number 2 under be it further resolved, number 2 there, we call upon the federal government to promptly address and fix a broken immigration process. Well, we all know it's a problem and they've been working on it at the federal level. There's some things that aren't going so well with it, but it's a complex issue. But to call it a broken immigration system, which is allowing undocumented individuals to enter the United States, yeah, it's a huge problem. We know that. But to fix it as if they're not trying, I mean, it's been on the agenda. Every time I put the news on, I hear about the immigration issue. So whether it's going anywhere, we have to figure that out. Our country has to figure that out, or our governing bodies have to figure that out. The only other thing I also wonder about is when it talks about number 4, to protect that the law with enforcement, U.S. law enforcement organizations, which keep residents safe and protected from the many numerous and dangerous byproducts of illegal immigration. Word illegal is legal. It's not something that is, that's not just specific to illegal immigrants, I guess is what I'm saying. Dangerous byproducts of all, I mean, you could say people that defy the law and use guns illegally, that have killed children in the schools. I mean, you know, the list could go on. There's many problems that we have. But to kind of point out that illegal immigrants being kind of so numerous and dangerous by the byproducts of their illegality in the country, I think is an overstepping. So thank you for listening.
Okay, we have one more. Is there one more tonight?
Lucille Meissner, 2937 Kings Lane, Lancaster. I have not heard anything tonight that indicates you, the board, have gotten legal advice from the township solicitor whether this resolution will be a legal problem and possibly cause lawsuit. If that is the case, I think you're being irresponsible by passing this resolution.
All right. With that, one more time, anything from the board to add?
Yes, I'd like to amend the resolution and request that everything gets eliminated except for one statement, which says, be it resolved, the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors declares that local law enforcement will continue to follow federal immigration law.
So you want to strike the preamble?
Everything, like
Everything.
the whole document, and simplify it by just, we'd like to continue to follow immigration law.
Mr. Hughes, you're out of order. If you're going to speak, you need to be recognized and you need to go to the podium.
Okay. All right, with that, let's see where we go from here. Mr. Johnson, is that a motion?
Yes, I'd like to make that motion.
Okay, and that motion again is?
Perhaps the heading needs to be rewritten. I didn't really take that into account, but be it resolved, the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors declares that local law enforcement will continue to follow federal immigration law.
Okay,
So I just have a question. So just so we're all clear, you're willing to support a document that will support ICE, will support federal law enforcement, will support working with federal law enforcement. If we make a change and maybe come back next meeting, I just want to make sure that that's where you're at, that you're going to vote for it.
Yes, if it's reduced to that one statement that we continue to follow federal immigration law, as we have all described, we all took an oath. So this is essentially restating that oath, and I'm comfortable taking that oath daily.
okay.
So for me, I'm not opposed to rewriting it, and I'm not opposed to making some adjustments. I do want to say there's one resident, ma'am, I'm sorry, I did not get your name. if we made one change. I'm gonna throw the challenge flag on that. I find that hard to, I'm not opposed to making some changes as long as the message is sent that we're gonna uphold federal law, we're gonna cooperate with law enforcement. That's what I want. I don't want the misinformation that, that was sent out there that we're gonna have EMS asking for, which is absolutely absurd, asking for papers and documents and that kind of nonsense. But limiting it to that one sentence, I think, is a little bit naive or short-sighted. But I would be willing to go back to the drawing board, Mr. Johnson, if you're telling me that you could support something that just codifies what I just said.
There's a lot of people want to speak out there, but yes, that is my belief at this point. If the only whereas was that we would continue to do what we have expressed an oath to do, I would support that.
Well, let us have a board discussion and the Mr.
Second,
Well,
discussion, or where are we?
we should have, yeah, we're still in discussion. I guess my issue at this point is, I spent a good part of a half an hour, 45 minutes on Monday. And I didn't get that kind of and reviewing this with Bob, and I didn't really get any edits. Now I'm getting an edit for everything. And, that concerns me a little bit. I mean, am I willing, like you, am I willing to make some changes in the document to make people understand this a little better? Frankly, I don't think there's anything that we can do to change this and have a resolution that certainly people in this room are going to accept. So, I question the value of editing this at this point in a major way. We can certainly, but the gist of it has to do with supporting and enforcing the Constitution and the laws of the U.S. and Pennsylvania, keeping this community safe, and that's really the focus of what we're trying to do here.
So, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what we do with the current motion, but my suggestion would be that we digest the public comment that we've had tonight, along with some of the comments of the board, and go back and reevaluate maybe what changes could be made to make this a little more palatable for everyone.
Well, I don't want to make this a little more palatable for everyone in a vacuum with it just being on us. The people out here, if there's people out here who wanted to change, frankly, I'm willing to go back again and give them an opportunity to tell me how you wanted to change. Okay? I don't see a lot on here that many people would object with. We're going to have some resolution here by the time we leave here. That would be my desire. So if you want to make changes, I'd like to hear about it.
So I guess the first thing we got to deal with the motion, either that dies or.
Is there a second on the motion from Mr. Johnson to edit this down to one paragraph. Seeing no motion for a second, motion is dead. It died. Okay? Now, if we have some people in the community that wants to, I think you all have a copy of this. You know, again, at the end of the day,
Mr. Bennett, is it your desire to actually do this tonight? Or can we come back and do this?
no, I want to do it tonight. Keep these people here. I don't give a shit. So let's start here.
Keep the statement that I think we could all agree with, which is right in the middle of the page. Whereas the executive branch, the federal government, US Congress have failed to blah, blah. I'm not going to read the whole thing. I think that is something that most citizens in the whole United States would agree with. And then if you would go down to, you know, your resolution would be, therefore be it resolved that East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors hereby declare it does not support policies that run counter to current US law. In other words, you're removing that sanctuary city policy bit, which is so vague and which will create a lot of consternation. And then you simply say you'll continue to prioritize the needs of local citizens, uphold the Constitution, law, you know, et cetera, because that is what you do. That is your job, and you are trying to do that, and end it there. That, in essence, to me,
Okay,
you're saying this is important and we'll do this.
so edits. So before you leave,
You'll need to use the mic, please. I'm sorry.
use them, please use the mic.
I mean, I think some of this is a given. I mean, yes, of course, we have a proud history of, you know, people coming here. My goodness, Lancaster City, well, in Lancaster County, quite frankly, I moved here from another county. It's known as a very wonderful place for immigrants to flow into. I mean, that's been I've lived in Pennsylvania most of my life, and Lancaster County is known as it's a wonderful place to live. But you know, I don't think you need to say all that. I think you should get right to the heart of it.
Okay.
The executive branch, blah, blah, and we resolve and take out that sanctuary city bit.
All right.
That's what I would suggest, okay?
Thank you.
Sure.
What I'm hearing is that we're going to remove the does not support sanctuary city policies. That's what you want out, right?
Right, that it would read that it does not support policies that run counter to.
Right.
Yeah, there's just a strike there of like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 words. Is that something you could support?
Well, I think I'd have to see it. Yeah.
Words from the.
My name's Joan Braun, 1508 Bloomfield Way, Deb's neighbor, Landisville. All I want to say is I think for many of us here, this is the first time we've read this resolution. I think it's impractical to try to make revisions tonight. You know, we need a chance to really absorb this and absorb what everybody has said and what you have said. So I think to try to churn something out tonight is not practical. That's all.
Again, I would say that this isn't your resolution. This is our resolution. You know, we can pass what we want. We're not trying to.
True, but you had asked for some comments from us, and frankly, I need more time to absorb all this. in order to make a comment, if I chose to make a comment. And am I allowed to ask who authored this resolution? Was it a joint effort? Was it? And if you can't answer that, I understand.
This particular resolution was, for the most part, authored by me. Having said that, and I said this earlier, opening of the whole sanctuary, this was not my intention to deal with sanctuary cities, non-sanctuary cities, or anything else. This was about law enforcement and about the failed and broken immigration process that exists in this country today. And I believe that we have the responsibility to weigh in on it.
Okay,
So that's the answer.
thank you.
35-mile-an-hour speed limit. Hated Hughes, Huntington Place. The audacity of you to say that this doesn't reek of pejorative language. The first thing in the resolution. Anybody reads this, they're gonna think, oh my God, we're being run over by illegals in our business and our community. What have they been doing to us? Oh, they've been doing everything. That's it.
Right, sit down, please.
So, Mr. Chairman, and I'm sorry, I probably started this sidetrack. I was shocked by Mr. Johnson's comment that he could support some form. I think most people, no matter what we do, that have come out tonight, you know, I'm sure they were alerted by an email and encouraged to come tonight over this. We get fed talking points, probably most of which were not true, probably found out a lot did not end up being the truth. And I do agree they're probably not going to support it at the end. So I think the question is whether it's worth it to rewrite it, make a few changes. I personally could support it as is. I could support it with the change that was just mentioned, where there was just a short few words that were stricken from the document as well. I think to me, it sends the same message.
Let's sort of get going here. All right, with that, I'll hear a motion to change the resolution to exclude the reference to sanctuary city policies. Do I hear a motion to do that?
Can you first read what it's going to state?
Sure. It's going to say the East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors hereby declares that policies that run counter to U.S. law
It does not support.
we don't, that we do not support policies that do not run counter to current U.S. law and will continue to prioritize the needs of our local citizens. Okay. So we'll we're really going to take the reference of or to sanctuary cities out of this item. So I'd like a motion to do that.
Why do you need it at all? What brought it?
Mr. Rupp, you'll need to use the microphone.
So, Mr. Chairman, I'm going to ask that Mr. Rupp be instructed to sit down. We've had plenty of debate on this. I'm going to ask that we keep to order. We've talked about this item. We're now discussing it as a board to finalize the resolution, and let's complete that task.
Why do you need it at all?
All right, thank you, Doug. You're out of order, Doug.
You have not explained what brought it up.
What brought it up? No, we're done talking. We're done talking.
So, Mr. Chairman, I will make a motion that we amend Resolution 2024-12 by taking out the language under the paragraph, now therefore be it resolved that East Hempfield Township Board of Supervisors hereby declares that it does not support. I move that we strike the language sanctuary city and other. Sanctuary city policies and other gets stricken out, and that we approve Resolution 2024 with that 2024-12 with that change.
You're suggesting that or that you're motioning that we strike.
Right. Anything else? Discussion? All right.
Yeah, we really should take.
Yeah, we should, yes, you want to speak?
No, I'm just saying, are you asking that question?
Well, right now I'm asking it to the board, but you know,
That's okay, I'll take the 30 minutes. I just wanted.
Okay.
Still have opportunity to comment.
you can.
I can't.
Go
My
ahead.
name's Jen Erickson, 1080 Lambley Road, Landisville. So why would you keep in the be it further resolved? And we hereby call upon the President of the United States and Congress. Why would we need to keep that in there? Are you sending this resolution to Washington? Like, why does that even need to be in there? If it's a local issue that you're trying to address, it's a local opinion, why do you even have to discuss the national things when the issue, we're not even seeing this problem in East Hempfield?
All right, thank you.
State
So-
your name.
Oh, Patty Gould Lucht, 708 Farmingdale Road, Lancaster. I'm still wondering and would like the word significant in 1, 2, 3, 4th paragraph down, whereas, and have imposed significant public health. I don't know the data on that. I think we need some more information about that. Like how much of a problem is it? And then aside from that, I think the last sentence, number 4, on the, you know, the backside, it says, and cooperation with U.S. law enforcement organizations which keep residents safe, period. Why would we need and protected from the many numerous and dangerous byproducts of illegal immigration? That just seems illegal. It just doesn't seem right. It just doesn't, it seems to be, it overstretches.
On the last point, I would say that it's not, we're not particularly referencing only individuals, but we're also referencing gangs and groups that have spun off of as dangerous to the community. So that was the thinking behind that.
Hi, Alex Bender, 25 hours editing this and discussing details and word choice and syntax. I think looking at the bigger picture, I think we have to ask ourselves, is the adoption of a resolution that is mostly just redundant of the pledge that you've already made to do for the township, is the adoption of that going to cause more good than it is harm?
Thank you. All right. Okay. Real quick.
Sylvia Schellenberger, 2875 Mimosa Lane. I appreciate the friendliness of the first three resolutions. The one that feels very unfriendly to me is number 4, where it talks about those who enter the country illegally, accelerate the demand and increase unsustainability of our public infrastructure. If we had a lot of problems evident in our community because of that, perhaps that would be one to include. However, I disagree with that.
Okay, thank you. All right. From a discussion standpoint, I think that will end it. We have a motion on the floor for Mr. Wigglesworth and a second for Mr. Russell. All those in favor, please signal.
Excuse me, I move that we divide the question. There was 2 parts to that motion. One was edits and one was acceptance. And I just would like to divide that question because anything we can do to soften this is a step forward, I think, but I'm not going to vote for it.
So I guess,
Yeah,
so we have, before I would withdraw my motion, we have a motion on the floor that's been seconded. But I'm trying to follow your logic here. What is it we're trying to accomplish?
The motion that you made has 2 items in it. So I'm moving that we divide the question.
Are you in support of one of those items?
The edits I am support of because any improvement to what probably will end up getting approved is good. However, I'm not supporting the whole concept beyond what I had said a half hour ago about the
Motion passes 3-2. All right. Moving on to our next business item.
Mr. Johnson or Mr. Bennett?
Yes.
That was Mr. Johnson and Mr.
Mr.
Thank you.
Brubaker. Next up, we have action on some noise variances. First one being Junction Center, Mrs. Garber.
So we received a request from the Junction Center for a noise ordinance variance for Saturday, July 13th to host fireworks as a part of an event that is occurring there on their property. The fireworks are provided by a licensed and insured professional pyrotechnic company. The fireworks will begin at approximately 9:30 and end no later than 10 p.m. They will do a letter of notification to the residents and they have submitted an acceptable safety plan to Chief Kottmeyer and myself. The noise ordinance variance was published on the website on recommendation that you approve the noise ordinance variance for July 13th for the Junction Center to have a 60-minute variance. And do you want me to do the second one or you want?
Go ahead.
Okay. The second noise ordinance variance was received from the Reading Buccaneers Drum and Bugle Corps. They host a recurring event at the George Ellis Law Firm Stadium at Hempfield High School. It will be occurring on Saturday, July 20th, beginning at 6:30 p.m. and concluding at approximately 9:30. They have also requested a 60-minute extension to the 9 p.m. conclusion referenced in the noise ordinance, allowing them to go until at the most 10 p.m. As I indicated, this is a recurring event and has been a non-issue in the past. And so it would be staff's recommendation that you also approve this noise ordinance variance, which was also published on the website on Monday, June 10th, as required by the ordinance.
Okay, any discussion from the board on these 2 agenda items? Okay, hearing anything from the audience? Reading
They're-
High School Buccaneers.
They're a drum and bugle corps. I did. It may not be on there, but I did state it when I read the variance request to the board.
High school kids. All right, nothing from the audience. With that, I'll entertain a motion to approve Junction Center, noise ordinance variance, as well as the Reading Buccaneers noise ordinance variance. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Motion from Mr. Russell, second from Mr. Wigglesworth. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0. Next up is the Bowman project update for June. This was in our packet from Mrs. Schweitzer. We'll let her.
Want me to run through
Yep,
it?
real quickly.
Okay, so the truck study that affects Centerville Road, the signs have been arrived and they're being posted. We're working through that process now. 72 in Lidditz Road, the temporary signals project. We are currently waiting for the highway occupancy permit from PennDOT. The Farmingdale Road, as we mentioned earlier, is closing out. You had approved a final payment on that for the contractor. The Harrisburg and Hemlock, Harrisburg and Good traffic signals. We are currently working through a Green Light Go grant for that. So that should be a project that's probably going to happen in 25. We have general land development things going on, the project at Panatone, which is the warehouse at South Chickies and Spooky Nook. And the project at 3321 Columbia Avenue and the project at Centerville Road, the mixed use are all being reviewed through the traffic engineer for traffic studies. He is also working on the bridge capital plan to get that updated, which will happen this year, and the traffic signal assessment, which will address our signals and where we need to improve upon, also being done this year.
Okay, thank you. So we're not taking action on that right now.
No.
Okay.
Information.
Next up, we also have our recreation plan draft, which I believe everyone has received last week. Again, comprehensive plan concerning all of our park locations. What's there, what's improvements are needed, required, desired. In general, a good plan. It's in a draft form now. If you have any questions or additions, please get to Mrs. Schweitzer. We had, this was discussed at our Parks and Recreation meeting on Monday. I made a suggestion that there be some listing of improvements that were made to each park that we have in the township. So we'll hopefully we'll have other comments from other board members. Any questions or comments on that? All right, seeing none, let's move to new business. Any new business tonight? Hearing no new business.
I got one.
Oh, sorry.
I live on Huntington Place.
Please state your name and address.
It's 854 Huntington Place. And that intersects with Stony Battery Road. There's not a speed limit sign heading west from Marietta Pike until just after Old Pine Tree Way. The trucks, the motorcycles, they come around that corner where before Huntington Place and at all speed. And you can hear them also accelerating going the other way, but at Church Street, there are a couple of speed limit signs within a reasonable length of time turning on to Stony Battery. But for some reason, there is no speed limit heading west and from Marietta Pike all the way down to just past Old Pine Tree Road. It just doesn't seem right.
Okay, well, we'll check with our Public Works Department and seeing if our signage is in accordance to what it needs to be for that road. And if it's not, we'll take corrective action.
And the other thing would be, it'd be very nice if you had one of those signs like you have in a lot of places that says your speed. Those are the most effective, unless you could put a camera on them and send tickets.
I would agree with you on that. I like that type of sign also. And we're utilizing more of those in the township, slowly but surely. And we'll try to get.
It is a heavy traffic with trucks, and trucks are not very forgiving. If you've seen the recent accident reports about people getting hit by trucks, and we've got a lot of trucks on that road.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Traffic Commission report. Traffic Commission this evening, we discussed a new item on the Traffic Commission was a request by the Friends School on Wilson Avenue for some safety measures. We discussed it with them. We indicated that it's a very difficult intersection. We would take under advisement the request under advisement. We also will talk with property owners along Wilson Avenue about trimming their bushes to make the sight lines a little more conducive for walkers, people traveling across the road to a secondary parking lot. We also had reports on a number of speed studies this evening. Looks like there were 10 that we reviewed. We discussed a little bit about the contract closeout on Farmingdale and Barcrest. And we're also taking a look at a new, not really a speed situation, but a traffic flow situation on Old Horstown Road near Lowe's. And we have the chief looking into that. Anything else? Okay. That's it for that. Public comment. Public comment this evening from anyone? Not surprised.
Yeah, well, you know, might as well you're gonna have a break for a month at least.
Okay.
David Hughes, 854 Huntington Place. I'd like to comment and thank the Streets Division, I guess it was. They were called yesterday and responded to a very significant problem in our neighborhood, and very quickly, very professionally, and I was very impressed. And I know everybody in our community would thank you all for doing that.
Well, great. Appreciate you saying that. We have a Public Works here. Yeah, Public Works do a great job here. Perry and his group do a nice job. Any other public comment? Okay, seeing none, let's move on to the manager's report.
So the Centerville Road project is moving along as it is expected. They are gaining ground to get back to their original completion date, which they anticipate to be September 2025. We heard concerns about the Church Street project, which was a PennDOT project that JVI was doing, the contractor. And we are now working with PennDOT closely to work through the punch list with the contractor. The Old Roystown Road Bridge is still on hold until mid-July per the contractor. The Stony Battery Trail, we're still waiting for the paving contractor to finish that up. The third meeting, I believe, for the Colebrook Validity Challenge for the zoning will be tomorrow evening at 7 p.m. The AHER Phase 2 project will be starting July 1st and completion is anticipated for November. That's a pavilion, a second set of bocce courts, and a parking lot expansion. Trash and recycling contract, we tried for a 5th year of extension for that contract. That did not work out with the contractor, so we will be bidding trash services in the next couple of weeks to be presented to the board, probably in September, for a new contract. Unfortunately, a new contract likely will be a higher cost, and we are also looking at different avenues to maybe curtail those costs. The Spooky Nook interchange improvements, which are 2 signals at those ramps on 283, is moving forward along with the 283 Commerce Hub project. So we should be seeing some activity out there. We did have 2 group meetings, public safety. We talked about staffing, grants successful, getting a grant. And the fire services donations are actually low right now. So if anyone hasn't donated to the fire department, please do so. They are in need of your funds. The Park and Rec also met this month. And we discussed the recreation plan. We discussed changes to our saddle to address the updated fee in lieu of when developers do come in. Irrigation costs right now, very similar to what we have experienced with Amos Hers. So that's yet to be determined where we go with that. We talked about pickleball concerns and a possible expansion in that area, which more information will be coming for that. That concludes my report unless you have something you'd like to discuss further.
I guess the only thing I would mention is that we had a very productive meeting with Senator Ramit's legislative aid concerning additional support that he can provide to our recreation effort in the township. Believe that the senator will be very supportive of what we need. Made a good commitment. The aide made a good, I mean, the aide's not going to commit anything, but you know, he's going to strongly support the work that we're doing, particularly at Noel Dorwart Park, where we need some additional funding, and hopefully we'll be able to secure it quickly.
Okay. It's good news.
Talk about.
Oh, just to note, we do not have a November 3rd, or I'm sorry, July 3rd meeting. Our next meeting is actually July 17.
Right. And no executive session here.
Correct.
Right. Sounds good. All right. All right. For the good of the cause, I believe we can adjourn at 9:13.